about this, but I'm not seeing you guys. So it is what it is. You're more than welcome to call. Like I said, you can call. There's a business card on the front. You can call and speak to somebody about it, but I'm not having it. I'm not. Okay, well then you take it up however you want.
I want to know, what did she say?
She was rude.
What did she say to be rude? We wasn't in here, so I just want to know what happened.
You guys again are arguing with me.
I'm not louder than us. You're clapping. Look at your body language compared to our body language.
Once again, I'm not going to argue. I said no. I said no. That's it.
You said no?
Fuck yeah. Well, this is going on Facebook, and then it's going to be sent to corporate because you're a very rude, ugly bitch.
My face right here. See my face? Take a picture of it.
You're going on Facebook. You're really rude. You're really rude. That's really rude.
Fucking leave.
Ooh, have a job. She won't have a job tomorrow.
Oh, thank you. Remember my name spelled correctly.
There is something sacred about a family that shows up. Not the kind that sends a text or promises to come next time. The kind that actually clears the calendar, makes the drive, and walks through the door, together, because someone they love deserves to feel it. 15 people, one daughter, one birthday, one restaurant chosen not by accident, but by loyalty. The kind of loyalty that only comes from years of good memories made over warm biscuits and seafood, and the particular comfort of a place that always felt like it was made for you. That's what Red Lobster was supposed to be that evening. They walked in ready to celebrate, ready to be loud, ready to order too much and laugh too hard, and leave a tip that reflected exactly how good the night had been. They weren't looking for trouble. They weren't carrying a grievance. They were carrying a birthday, and everything that word is supposed to mean when the people around you show up to honor it. They were told to wait 30 minutes. They said fine. A party of 15 is a big ask, and this family knew that. They were patient. They were reasonable. They did everything right. 30 minutes passed. Then 40. And when a mother stepped forward to ask one simple question about their table, the manager appeared. What happened next was not a misunderstanding. It was not a miscommunication or a staffing issue or an honest mistake made under pressure. It was a decision, deliberate, delivered without apology, and aimed directly at 15 black people who had done nothing except wait and ask and show up for someone they loved. The manager told them she would not be seating them. The camera came out, and a birthday dinner that was supposed to become a memory became something else entirely. A video, a viral moment, a national conversation, and ultimately a termination that the family predicted before they ever walked out the door. This is that story. There is a kind of authority that only reveals itself when it feels challenged. Not the kind earned through competence or respect, the kind that lives entirely in a title. The kind that the moment someone questions it, even reasonably, even respectfully, doesn't reach for solutions. It reaches for walls. It reaches for control. It reaches for the particular power that comes from being the person in the building who gets to say no. That's what walked out to meet this family. The timeline matters here because the timeline is the story. 40 minutes, not 10, not 20, 40 minutes of a birthday evening dissolving in a waiting area while 15 people stood together wondering when they'd finally get to sit down and celebrate the reason they all came. They had been told 30. They had accepted that. They had stayed patient in the way that people stay patient when they're trying to be reasonable, and they trust that the system will eventually work in their favor. It didn't. When the mother approached and asked her single question, one question about the table they had been promised, the manager didn't come out with an apology or a revised timeline or even a basic acknowledgement that 40 minutes was a long time to wait. She came out with the decision that had apparently already been made long before anyone said a word. She would not be seating them. No explanation, no alternative, no courtesy extended to 15 people who had given this restaurant 40 minutes of a birthday evening and received nothing in return except a refusal delivered with the confidence of someone who had no intention of being questioned about it. Laprie, the family member who took to Facebook that same night, described the moment with precision. Her mother asked one question, and the manager snapped. Not redirected, not explained, snapped. As though the ask itself was an offense, as though a black family of 15 requesting the table they had been promised was somehow more than this manager was willing to manage. And when the family pushed back, when 40 minutes of patience finally collided with the indignity of an unexplained refusal, the manager looked at them and said their body language was the problem. Their body language, not the wait, not the refusal, not the complete absence of any professional attempt to make this right. The way 15 people were standing while being told they would not be seated after 40 minutes of waiting, that was the issue according to the woman holding the clipboard. The camera was already rolling, and what it captured was a manager who had stopped managing anything except her own ego, who handed a family a business card and told them to call corporate, as though a business card was a resolution, as though pointing people toward a phone number was the same thing as doing her job. "I'm not seeing you right now." Her words, on camera, said to 15 people, including a birthday girl who had done nothing except show up, wait, and ask. She was looking directly at them, and she still couldn't see them.
There is a moment in every confrontation where the person who started it realizes, too late, that the rules have changed. It usually happens when they notice the phone. By the time that camera was fully visible inside that Red Lobster, the manager had already crossed every line available to her. She had refused service without explanation. She had blamed the family's body language for her own failure. She had handed them a business card instead of a solution. She had looked directly at 15 people celebrating a birthday and told them she was not seeing them. Every off-ramp had been passed. Every opportunity to make it right had been declined. And still, she kept going. So did the camera. Let's be precise about what that footage actually shows, because the noise of the confrontation, the raised voices, the profanity, the raw emotion of 15 people processing a humiliation they never came there for, can make it easy to miss what's really happening underneath all of it. This family was not violent. They were not destroying property. They were not threatening anyone. They were angry, loudly, visibly, undeniably angry, and they had earned every single degree of that anger across 40 minutes of waiting, followed by a refusal that was never properly explained. That anger has a long history in this country. It doesn't always sound like this. Sometimes it's quieter. The table that never gets cleared as fast as the ones around you. The server who somehow always finds reasons to avoid eye contact. The wait that keeps stretching while other parties get seated without incident. Black Americans have been navigating both versions of this experience for generations. The loud confrontation and the quiet one. The documented moment and the invisible one. And what made this particular evening different, what transformed a refused birthday dinner into a story seen by hundreds of thousands of people, was that somebody had a phone out before it was over. Laprie posted to Facebook on March 8th. Her account was direct, specific, and impossible to dismiss. Her family had come to celebrate. They had accepted the wait. Her mother had asked one question. The manager had snapped, and 15 black people who had done everything right had been told, without justification, without apology, without any professional courtesy whatsoever, that they would not be seated. The post spread faster than anyone anticipated. Within hours, it had been shared across platforms by people who had never met this family, never visited that location, never set foot in that particular town. But they recognized what they were watching. Not just the specific injustice of one refused birthday dinner, something older than that. Something embedded in the particular exhaustion of moving through public spaces as a black person and never quite knowing which ordinary moment is about to become an extraordinary indignity. The comments multiplied. The shares kept climbing, and inside the corporate structure of Red Lobster, in an office belonging to a man this manager apparently never considered, someone was watching. Because here is what she did not account for when she decided that 15 black people celebrating a birthday were not worth her restaurant's tables. Red Lobster's CEO is a black man, Damola Adamalekan, 35 years old, one of the youngest chief executives of a major American restaurant chain, a man who had taken over a struggling brand with a specific understanding of which communities had kept its dining rooms full for decades, and a specific commitment to making sure those communities felt that loyalty returned. One of those communities was now watching a video of a family being turned away from one of his restaurants on a Sunday night. Red Lobster's corporate response came swiftly. They would take the matter seriously. And seriously, in this case, meant exactly what the family had already predicted while they were still standing inside that restaurant. One of them had said it directly, on camera, with the kind of quiet certainty that only comes from knowing you are completely right. She going to have a job tomorrow? She did not. Fired. Not suspended, not quietly reassigned. Fired after the video went viral, after corporate got involved, after a birthday dinner became a national moment that hundreds of thousands of people watched and refused to scroll past. The camera had recorded everything. And everything was enough. Let's go back to the beginning one more time. Not to the confrontation, not to the camera, not to the business card handed out like a consolation prize or the body language accusation delivered like a verdict. Go back further than all of that. Go back to the moment someone in this family said, "Let's take her to Red Lobster." That was the whole decision. Not a political statement, not a test of anything, just a family choosing a restaurant for a birthday, the way families had been choosing Red Lobster for birthdays for decades, because it felt right, because it felt familiar, because it felt like the kind of place that would hold the weight of a celebration without making anyone feel like they didn't belong there. 15 people built their evening around that choice, and what they walked out carrying, instead of full plates and birthday memories and the particular warmth of an evening well spent, was something no celebration should ever produce: a refusal, a humiliation delivered in public by someone whose job was literally to make them feel welcome. A birthday that became a confrontation, that became a viral video, that became a termination, that became a national conversation about something this family never asked to represent. They just wanted dinner. But since this story exists, since it was captured and shared and seen, let's make sure it gets told completely. Let's say clearly what this family did right, because it deserves to be said. They were patient, 40 minutes of patient, with 15 people, a birthday on the line, and every reason to escalate far earlier than they did. That patience was not weakness. It was grace applied under pressure that most people never have to face in a restaurant on an ordinary evening. They asked questions instead of making assumptions. A mother approached with one question, not an accusation, not a demand. And when that question was met with a wall, the family responded the way any human being would respond to being told they were not welcome somewhere they had every right to be. They recorded it because they understood what documentation means when you are black in a public space and something goes wrong. Without that camera, there is no Facebook post. Without the post, there is no viral spread. Without the spread, there is no corporate response. Without the response, there is no firing. Without the firing, a manager who refused to seat 15 black people at a birthday dinner keeps her position and does it again, quietly, confidently, to the next family that walks through those doors on the next ordinary evening. The camera was not a weapon, it was a witness. Now let's talk about what the firing actually means, and what it doesn't. It means accountability reached one person at one location on one Sunday night. That is real. That matters. The family deserved that outcome, and the speed with which it arrived reflected exactly how indefensible the footage was. But one firing does not answer the deeper question this incident raises. How does someone who refuses to serve black customers become a manager at a restaurant whose loyal customer base is overwhelmingly black? What does that hiring process look like? What values are being screened for, and what is being missed entirely? What happens in all the locations where the family goes home quietly and there is no camera and no post and no CEO paying attention on a Sunday night? Red Lobster's relationship with Black America is not incidental, it is foundational. Demola Adamalekwin understands that. The swiftness of corporate's response reflected that understanding, because this was not just a customer service failure caught on camera. It was a betrayal of the exact community that had shown up for this brand across generations. A manager representing Red Lobster had looked at 15 black people on a birthday evening and decided they were not worth a table in a restaurant that those same people and their families had been filling for decades. That is not just one bad hire. That is a question every institution needs to ask itself about who it puts in charge and what values those people carry into the room when nobody is watching. This family came for a birthday dinner. Just that. Nothing complicated. Nothing that should have required 40 minutes of waiting, a camera, a Facebook post, a viral moment, a CEO's intervention, and a national conversation to resolve. They came for a table. They deserved one. And the fact that it took everything else to get there, that is the part of this story that should stay with you long after the outrage fades and the next story arrives and this one gets filed away. Because somewhere tonight, another family is walking into another restaurant, and the camera might not be out yet. If this story stayed with you, if it made you think about what it costs to simply exist in certain spaces in this country, then you already understand why this kind of storytelling cannot stop. These are not just viral moments. They are documented evidence of a pattern that continues with or without an audience. We find these stories. We build them fully. We make sure the people at the center of them are seen as more than a headline. If that matters to you, hit that like button right now and subscribe to this channel. Every like pushes this story to someone who needs to see it. Every subscriber means the next family whose evening gets stolen by someone who should have known better has a chance of being heard. Don't just watch. Be part of making sure these stories reach the people who need them most. We'll see you on the next one.